And you had sex with him?
Yes.
You were 27, he was 60. Were you physically attracted to him?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Did you want to have sex with him?
No. But I didn't say no. I'm not a victim. I'm not.
It was entirely consensual?
Oh, yes. Yes.
After you had sex, what happened?
He said that it was great. He had a great evening, and it was nothing like he expected, that I really surprised him, that a lot of people must underestimate me, that he hoped that I would be willing to see him again and that we would discuss the things that we had talked about earlier in the evening.
Being on The Apprentice.
Right.
Now, and perhaps the biggest twist, newest twist, I should say, in the story, Stormy Daniels claimed that she was threatened should she go public with her story.
I was in a parking lot going to a fitness class with my infant daughter. I was taking, the seats facing backwards in the back seat, diaper bag, getting all the stuff out. And a guy walked up on me and said to me, "Leave Trump alone, forget the story." And then he leaned around and looked at my daughter and said, "A beautiful little girl, it'd be a shame if something happened to her mom." And then he was gone.
Now, Daniels is now suing Trump attorney Michael Cohen for defamation. President Trump is not tweeting about any of this. He's allowing the White House to deny that there was an affair or threat.
The president strongly, clearly, and has consistently denied these underlying claims, and the only person who's been inconsistent is the one making the claims.
Now, you've probably heard this before. The affair is between the president and First Lady Melania, right? But the payment to keep quiet days before the presidential election, that is our business. That money could be seen as an illegal contribution to the Trump campaign. By law, the most money that any individual can give to a presidential campaign is $2,700. What's happening here is that $130,000 payment the president's lawyer made to Daniels 11 days before the election, that money could be seen as a donation made to keep her quiet, which could then influence the outcome of the election and benefit the candidate, in this case, Mr. Trump. A watchdog group has filed formal complaints with both the Justice Department and the Federal Elections Commission. That commission is made up of 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat, and 1 independent, and they would all have to sign off on an investigation. And this type of contribution, it could be a felony with up to $250,000 in fines and up to 5 years in jail. And those penalties can apply to both the person who made the payment and to the candidate. Okay, we know you got a lot of questions, so do we. We've got a panel to talk about all this. China Dickerson, she's with the D.C. Young Democrats. Daniel Lippman is a reporter with Politico. Kelly Cohen is a reporter with the Washington Examiner. Anybody disappointed by what Stormy Daniels had to say last night?
I was expecting, audio and video evidence. I think she's probably holding that for a book or, getting a lot of money for that evidence. I think it was a bit of a letdown last night. A lot of Americans were expecting much more out of it. The only new thing was the threat, and that doesn't look good for Trump, to have a president of the United States who just 10 years ago was sending goons to threaten a young mother. Yeah,
you won't say it, but I will. A lot of people also tune in. They wanted the sleazy details of that alleged relationship. What do you think?
I wasn't disappointed. I don't think Americans were either. It was one of the best rated shows. It beat the Super Bowl. It beat the Grammys. I think people are going to continue to turn in, especially with the federal election campaign violation. That's going to get a lot of people's ears ringing, I think.
What do you think?
Yeah, but I think most people are more interested in the affair part of it, like that he had sex with a porn star. This is essentially prostitution. He paid her $130,000 to be quiet. And supposedly there's a dress that might have some stuff on it that we might be able to confirm that they actually had this relationship. But I don't think anything new. I don't think people care about. We care because we work in the industry about the threats, but people don't care about the threats.
I think she's right. You look at Donald Trump's numbers, and a lot of it's going to be due to the economy, but his numbers are actually up. Yeah. This doesn't seem to be hurting him politically.
I think Americans knew what they were getting with Trump when they elected him. But I think if the trade wars that he's started, if they get worse, then that would be bad news for him. And I think if there's more women that come out, that would hurt him as well. If they have similar stories, then it's harder to dismiss. And we're already hearing that there could be, 5 or 6 other women who have signed these settlement NDAs. And are they going to talk to Anderson Cooper?
Well, and also, like, your press secretary at the White House has to do all of this talking about your personal life, right? Like, that person is there as comms director to talk about your policy positions and what you're doing as it relates to matters of the country, and they're having essentially be his PR rep for his personal life. It's ridiculous.
Is it an accident that we learned today that he's expelled, what, 60 Russians? You know, it just seems like whenever there's bad news on the personal side, he comes out and tries to change the dynamics, the optics, the conversation, right?
I think it was actually coordinated with the Europeans, so it was just a freak in timing. And it's good news that he didn't stop that effort. I would note that he hasn't actually personally tweeted about it or made any statements, while other world leaders who also expelled Russian diplomats or spies, they made those statements, and so he doesn't like to criticize Russia for anything. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. I want to talk about the money, though, the hush money, if it is hush money, non-disclosure agreement. Okay, the money was paid. Where is that likely to go?
I think it's going to, both sides are suing each other right now, and so. And it was a pretty small amount, $130,000, that if maybe it was $1 million, she would have kept quiet. And I think the fact that it came from Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, who has long worked for Trump, it's very hard to deny that this affair happened. If it didn't happen, why did they pay her all this money?
Well, and the important part of it is, I think an NDA is non-disclosure agreement, right? Like, you should not say anything. You decided to sign it. I think some would say that she was under the sense of distress because he's Donald Trump and he's this big, powerful man. But she signed it, so she should have kept her mouth shut. However, when you are then threatened, right? And the other piece of it is, did this money come from campaign funds, right? Because that's another big question. Did Cohen, who was working with him during the campaign, actually use money?
But Jana, who's likely to pursue that line? Who's likely to take that ball and run with it?
I think they are now on top of this, as you spoke of, the defamation claim. So he is more on this. If you talk about me every time you mention my name, $1 million. I think the NDA is out the window.
Trump didn't even sign his part of the agreement. And so it may not have been held up in court.
Yeah. Anything you want to add? We're talking about a non-disclosure agreement, which they say she broke, a non-disclosure agreement about an action which he says didn't take place.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go away for a while. I mean, if it was going to go away, it would have gone away a few weeks ago. I think it's going to continue to be in the news cycle, even if Trump doesn't want it to be.
Yeah, let me quickly ask you about the Russians who've been expelled. First question is, how many Russians are here?
A lot.
You know, the embassy's right down the street. I mean, so 60, Barack Obama, I think, expelled, what, 35?
Right.
That's a lot.
They just keep sending Russians here.
It's very,
And is the deal that we have the exact same number over there?
I don't think it's more like there's about 100 Russian spies who were here. They kicked out 60, so there's still a couple dozen of these people
and they're cloaked as diplomats, which is the scary part about it.
And I think with that, to your point, I think it just happens to be a coincidence that this is happening during the storm, because President Trump is the master of distraction. So, initially I was assuming, oh, this was all a part of the plan. But I do think, several other countries, many other countries have also dispelled their Russian diplomats. And I also think, though, it is interesting that he just congratulated Putin on his win. When was that, last week?
Last week.
So the way this is all lining up is a big time coincidence.
All right, it's good stuff. Thank you very much. We're going to be right back. Stay with us.